Hi, my name's Kevin Mack. So that's me. And I'm Nice Transition on Twitter. I post a lot of videos online, and this is weird, but so with that, I share a lot of information about design development and little tasks to do. And what I always do is I tell people to tweet at me, like, what do you want to learn? And then I'll either do it or find someone to do it and film it on YouTube and put it out there. So I share a lot of content from people in my network as well as things that I'm a part of. I've been developing since '95. I've been a part of a lot of the first in this industry. I worked in a wide range of roles as well as industries, categories, and also different products. So one of the things I've been focusing on in and out has also been e-commerce, and Shopify has been a really great platform for that. And I'm also vegan, so hopefully you guys ate the vegan pizza. Really quick, I also run a marketing firm. It's called Bosun, and the reason why I bring this up is this is really aiming towards getting back the creative thought and innovation for the people that are making it. So the work that we do is really aimed at making sure that people are happy doing it, but then we're also putting work out there that is going to actually return results. So that's Bosun. And then I'm also the CTO of Vibe, which we are the first way that retailers can discount alcohol. And you can actually get discounts on alcohol today by using the Target app or the Vibe app. And right now we have two promotions in the state of Ohio, which is $5 off Budweiser. So Bud Light or Budweiser 24-pack. So you can do that for Memorial Day. And we also have $5 off 3 bottles of Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah. So anyways, that's my plugs. And then I'm also the co-founder and organizer of the Columbus Web Group, and we provide free education to designers, developers, and anyone that wants to learn. All these things you can look up online, and that's about it for me talking about myself. These are all my plugs, so that's that. So what I'm actually talking about is Style Guide. So on the screen here, this is one of my favorite examples. This is Atlassian. And what this is showing is not just the overview of what you think about a digital style guide, but all the components that make up pieces that are your brand and your company. So in my career and in the different clients and projects that we work with, we're always telling clients to be really organized. And the reason why we're trying to make them be organized is to find consistency from one project to another project, as well as to find reuse. So in the beginning, like when people think, like if you've ever heard of a digital style guide, you think, let me show the UI components, the pieces that make up the interface. But what we've been doing and what we've been talking about is bigger pieces, and it's really about the organization of your team, as well as what you're showing to your customers, as well as your clients. So why this one's really awesome is it breaks down design approaches, so rules for the design team to be working together, as well as things like personas, so how you're talking to consumers, as well as resources to actually access and look at how do we design this out, or where's our logo, where is this Photoshop file, putting it in one place. So the goal of this isn't just for the development team or the design team to use it, but it's your entire company to be organized. And I think on this next slide, yeah, this goes into personas, and personas are really, really important. They're a great way to communicate with your customers and making sure that you're looking at various audience groups and the content that you're putting out there is aligning to their basic needs. But you guys can look that up. That's Atlassian's style guide. So I bring that up as an example. I have 3 different categories here. I'm talking about tacos because tacos are awesome. And then I'm talking about a methodology that I wrote around building out style guides. And then hitting on some like checkpoints, some takeaways. So really my goal is, at the end of this is for a better understanding of what a style guide is, branding guidelines, and also you can find consistency, not just on your e-commerce platform, but for your entire company. And this presentation is 4 hours long. So the style guide taco. This happened on Cinco de Mayo like 5 years ago. I was drinking lots of margaritas with my buddy, Joel Treadway, and we were like, none of our clients are understanding what we're talking about when we're talking about style guides. So this is where it came from, margaritas. So, and this is also based off of the model of Taco Bell. So here's a shell. This is a taco shell, if you can't tell. So if I want to make a taco, I need a lot more inside there. So I had lettuce, I had tomato, I add some protein, and then I add some vegan cheese, and I have a taco. If I want more tacos, well, I can use these same ingredients and just make more of them. So now I have multiple tacos. Now I'm really happy. But what if I don't like tacos? I want something else. Just like how Taco Bell's like, let's introduce a new ingredient. So we have a flour tortilla. And now if I want to make a quesadilla, I can use the same ingredients and the same components that make up the taco, but use it in a different context. So I have lettuce, I have tomato, I have protein, I have cheese, and then I top it off with another flour tortilla at the top. A lot of people give me like, I don't put lettuce in a tortilla or whatever. I think it's great. But anyways, the point of this is these are two different products that have the same components that are making it up, and they have they're two different products that are made up of the same ingredients, which is really, really interesting. The only variation is one. Now, if I don't want either of those and I want a burrito, and that's the coolest effect literally in Keynote. It's so stupid. So if I want a burrito could literally be the exact same ingredients as what was made in the quesadilla. And the only difference here is its context and the variations of combining these pieces. So as a company, as you're thinking about what it is to build something, and this goes along the lines of not just like the design, the interfaces that you're building, but thinking about your products and the ingredients that make them up. Focus on each of those, make sure that they're quality, but then they can also be reused. So my general, I guess, school of thought, that's a stupid saying, but is to reuse. So try to reuse as many components as possible, or many ingredients as possible. Combine when it makes sense, so combine them to try to make new things. And lastly, to create, but only create if you only need to. So creating is kind of like your last option, but you should be really focusing on the reuse of them and then combining them to make stuff. I didn't say this earlier, but taco was actually, this was also a great thing that came out of margaritas, was tacos stands for Taco Bell Component Organization. How about that? So that's tacos. So as I said, this is a methodology. I also really hate holding a microphone, so I apologize for the back and forth on this, but the style guide layer. So this is a methodology that I created. I've been designing, developing for many years, and I've been creating different style guides and doing rebranding for companies from big to small to everything in between. Over the time of doing this and also building out interfaces, I've made a lot of mistakes. And with this is kind of a guideline on how this can apply, not just to Shopify, but also all the products that you're creating. So this is what I refer to as the style guide layers. So there's four main pieces here. We have the global, we have the brand, we have application, and then we have campaign. The global, in the case of this, is looking at your core components. So these are the things that are going to be used inside the experience that you're serving up to your customers. In the case of Shopify, if you're building out something custom, this is probably using Slate. And that is the base core line of where themes can be made. The next layer here is the branding. So this is where you're adding and trickling in the customization of the look and feel of your brand. Now, if you're not doing custom application development and you're looking at buying themes off of Shopify, you kind of start here and the global and the brand are combined together. So there's really multiple ways of approaching e-commerce, especially using Shopify. A lot of the projects I do are customization and custom dev in Shopify. But if you're buying or looking at using a free one or buying it off the Shopify themes or third-party source, you're probably starting here. So this is where it's the general look and feel of your brand, but it has core components inside of it. The next layer is looking at the application. And the application is actually specific to your needs and the content and the products that you have inside your environment. So in the next couple slides, I'll break this down, how it also applies, not just to an e-commerce and Shopify experience, but how it relates to your entire environment. The last is campaigns, and this one's actually really important when it comes to e-commerce. So a lot of times I get pulled in at the last minute to be like, hey, we need to launch a holiday campaign or a Thanksgiving campaign. And what happens is people are just like, let me just drop in this custom CSS and put it in like the core CSS of my project. You fast forward like 3 years later and you roll out another promotion, you're like, where does all this weird styling come from? And you see this code from years ago and all this trash that was collected of campaign after campaign after campaign. In your project, you'll hire then a developer to come in, they'll be like, your CSS is shit, you need to rewrite it. It's like, oh, it wasn't at one point, it just over the years got worse and worse, and all these small little pieces and parts that you're building out started adding trash collection and also weight to your project. So the idea here is to separate this out into its own kind of style sheet and then import it into your core one. Once that campaign's over, you remove it. So generally speaking, this is a way of looking at your projects and how they trickle down from top to bottom. And some of these things become temporarily, but they also expand across your entire company. So if I look at a global project, and again, I said Slate earlier, but Slate can also be combined with other pieces and parts. So a global component are things that are in every single interface. These are your form fields, these are your headers, these are your buttons, your anchors, and anything that people are interacting with. But the brand layer is where you're bringing in your style. So in the case of this, we could be looking at your global components that are used across all of them. You could even use Slate as a base guideline for outside of your e-commerce site. And then you can have multiple brands. Like Josh here from Tiger Tree has Cub Shrub and Tiger Tree. Those are very similar brands, but they're also very distinct and unique. So in the case of his applications and his websites that he has, he's actually dividing them out and having them as two separate projects. However, I didn't build the Tiger Tree website, came in and helped at that, and then we worked on the Cub Shrub website. But if we were to go back and start and have both of those brands together, we would have architected it out so there was just one global core component, and then the two brands would be dividing out. So if we want to add different pieces at the global layer, then it could be available at both sites. And then the application, again, if you have maybe your e-commerce website is separated out from your marketing website, which does happen, especially as a small business. You may buy a WordPress template and customize it, and then you may have your e-commerce website. But a lot of times you're paying two different development teams to do the exact same work. If you take a few steps back and you look at it and you find the right person to build this out, they could do them both at the same time. The only caveat I want to say, and this was brought up earlier, and I think Chris said this, but if you are just getting started, like this is more advanced level stuff, you're just getting started and you're testing out your company, focus on your products, not necessarily the interface. This is all about maintaining your project after it's been launched. So there we go. So why does it matter? This is a question I ask every single day when I wake up. Whatever. So there are 8 benefits. I'm really bad at counting. I was originally trying to do 10, and then also due to time, we have 8. So these are arbitrary 8 benefits. So number 1, improve collaboration between designers and developers. So that's what style guides are. So style guides, again, it is a visual indicator of your brand, all the pieces and parts, and it actually has code inside there. And if you're using it in Shopify, there's different ways of building out a style guide where it's in one kind of separate project, you're customizing it, and it's getting imported inside your Shopify experience. But designers and developers, a lot of money is wasted by poor communication between the two, different sides of the brain. So with this, if you have something built out that is all about organizing them, they're going to be able to communicate better and then create consistency from the visions that both sides have. Second here is reduction in development efforts. So if you're building out a robust system, a lot of times, if you're not building out what do I want to say here? Building out a robust system for reuse is really important. That's a bad way of saying it. Anyways, if done right, you're going to reduce your development efforts and you're going to find reuse as opposed to creating. Back to what I was saying earlier about like the ingredients, building those out, reuse, combining, and then only creating when needed. That was a horrible number 2. That was also a bad way of saying that. But increase speed to market. This is also another really important thing is, as a shop owner, as a business person, you want this stuff to go live. And you may get a quote on someone, they're like, oh, I'll get it done tomorrow. And then 4 weeks go by and you're like, I kind of missed out my opportunity because my competitors are doing it. If you're building out things that you're planning, you're working with the right partners, you're going to have things be able to be launched and go quicker to market. The number 4 is alignment of code. This one is one of my pet peeves, is making sure that the code looks like one person's doing it. And this also helps in improve onboarding of new designers and developers to your project. And it also allows you to find errors and issues with your website and easily overcome them. This is also a very, very important one as business owners or anyone that's developing. I've made a button probably 1,000,000 times in my life. I still make buttons almost every single day of my life. I don't like making buttons, but I'm really good at them. I would rather focus on creating really awesome experiences and focusing on ROI than building out the same button. So focusing on experiences and how we can improve it, customize it for your specific needs. The 6 is iterating in the browser. So a lot of times in my career, we spent this back and forth of looking at a Photoshop file or a sketch file and be like, let's change this, change this. We get into the browser, it's like, that doesn't even work. So iterating inside the browser allows you to actually show what it's going to be. This is really important when we're thinking about contextual design and especially the responsive landscape. So from small screens to large screens. 7. And a lot of things that we say, and this was kind of brought up earlier, is like the non-focus on the brand. But no matter who you are and whatever your company is, you have some kind of brand identity. It's going to change. It's going to evolve. And I've worked on projects where we were 8 months in for a brand that's been around for 100 years, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, guess what, guys? We changed our brand. And we were doing this big redesign. But because of the way that we looked at this and planned for this, we were able to switch out the brand in just a few days as opposed to starting over from scratch. The last and the most important is consistency. And that's really what all this is all about, is trying to find consistency, not just from your design and development work, but also how you're communicating to your customers. If you're going to one page or another page in your experience, the buttons should look the same. The design should look the same. If you're going outside of your e-commerce experience into a new site or something else that is your brand, whether it's your email, it should all look the same. The brand that you have as a company is not just limited to the single experience that the consumer is looking at right now, but the evolving of it in the other areas of it. So, I don't remember what I put in here, but this is really quick. A good style guide, and this is just hitting on the style guide side, support for many platforms. So again, looking at Shopify is one piece inside how a style guide is actually built out, but looking at other platforms. Detailed documentation, so as you onboard different designers and developers inside of there and also evolve your company, you have details on what it is. As a business owner or as a developer or designer, it's the least important thing that you think of, but the next time you're making an update to your website, it becomes the most important. And I've spent so much time in my life trying to figure out how to get started on a project than it actually takes to get the project done. So this is one of those things, like I always recommend, no matter who you are in your business, you take the time to write this out. It doesn't have to be technical, but it just helps to onboard and share it. It also helps you get better quotes. One of the big things when building out something that is a little bit more custom is making sure that it doesn't compete. So again, looking at Shopify has a platform, a lot of things are built into it. You don't want to change the core pieces of it because those were written in a specific way, unless you want to go fully custom and just use an API for it. But if you are using one of these like starter areas, you want to make sure that you're writing in a way where you're extending it and you're not competing. And that way, it's extending it and it looks nice and it falls back into traditional ways if you ever want to change your brand. Easy to use and understand from the teams that are actually developing it. Again, a style guide is just a listing out of all these pieces and parts. It's also all your design tools and all the pieces and parts that you have as a business to communicate internally. And then I would say out of everything, following heuristics. So consistency is a heuristic of design. So heuristics are best practices that have been adopted by users. So they see a website over here, they go to a website over here. These two experiences are the same. This website over here doesn't have that same experience. That's considered an anti-pattern. If you're creating heuristics, it's on your own site, but it's actually looking at the global web world and how people are interacting with the web. If you're creating a new way of designing or a new interaction, especially on an e-commerce website, it is one of the worst things to ever do. So you want to make sure that you're following what is already working out there and you're keeping up to date with best practices of the web and adapting and adopting those ones as much as possible. With that consistency, as I said, from your UI, your branding, the way that you're communicating with your consumers is really, really important. So that's all I have. So yeah, that's it.